Have you ever wondered what it would be like to visit Saturn, the second largest and most spectacular planet in our solar system? If you have, you are not alone. Saturn has fascinated humans for centuries, from the ancient Babylonians and Romans to the modern astronomers and explorers. But what makes Saturn so special, and what secrets does it hide behind its magnificent rings and dozens of moons? My name is Anibal, and in this video I will take you on a journey to Saturn, where you will discover some amazing facts and mysteries about this gas giant. You will learn about its size, shape, orbit, rotation, atmosphere, storms, rings, and moons. You will also find out how humans have explored Saturn and what they have learned from their missions. By the end of this video, you will have a deeper appreciation and understanding of Saturn and its wonders. Let's start with some basic facts about Saturn. Saturn is the sixth planet from the Sun and the last of the planets known to ancient civilizations. It was named after the Roman god of agriculture and wealth, who was also the father of Jupiter, the king of the Roman gods. Saturn is one of 5 planets that can be seen with the naked eye, and it is also the 5th brightest object in the solar system. It is a gas giant, which means it is made mostly of hydrogen and helium and has no solid surface. It has a radius of about 36,000 miles, 58,000 kilometers, which is 9 times wider than Earth. If Earth were the size of a nickel, Saturn would be about as big as a volleyball. Saturn is also the flattest planet in the solar system due to its fast rotation and low density. It spins around its axis once every 10.7 hours, which is the second shortest day of any planet. Because of this, Saturn bulges at the equator and flattens at the poles. Its polar diameter is 90% of its equatorial diameter. Saturn also orbits the Sun once every 29.4 Earth years, which is the second longest year of any planet. Its orbit is slightly elliptical, which means it sometimes gets closer or farther away from the Sun. Its average distance from the Sun is about 886 million miles, 1.4 billion kilometers, which is 9.5 times farther than Earth. From this distance, it takes sunlight 80 minutes to reach Saturn. One of the most striking features of Saturn is its upper atmosphere, which is divided into bands of clouds that vary in color and speed. The top layers are mostly ammonia ice, which gives Saturn its pale yellow hue. Below them, the clouds are largely water ice, which reflect different shades of yellow, brown, and gray. Below are layers of cold hydrogen and sulfur ice mixtures, which create darker and redder colors. The clouds move at different speeds depending on their latitude, creating strong winds and storms. The fastest winds on Saturn can reach up to 100 miles per hour, 1,800 kilometers per hour, which is faster than the speed of sound on Earth. Saturn also has oval-shaped storms that resemble those on Jupiter, such as the Great White Spot, which is a giant storm that appears every 30 years or so. The most notable storm on Saturn, however, is the hexagonal-shaped pattern of clouds that surrounds its north pole. Scientists think this is a wave pattern in the upper clouds, caused by the rotation of the planet in the jet stream. The hexagon is about 15,000 miles, 25,000 kilometers wide, which is large enough to fit 4 Earths inside. The hexagon also has a vortex over its center, which looks like a hurricane-like storm. The vortex has a diameter of about 1,200 miles, 2,000 kilometers, and rotates once every 10.5 hours, the same as the planet. But perhaps the most famous and fascinating feature of Saturn is its ring system, which is the most extensive and complex in the solar system. The rings are made mostly of chunks of ice and small amounts of dust and rocks, ranging in size from a grain of sand to a house. The rings stretch out more than 120,000 miles, 200,000 kilometers, from the planet, but are amazingly thin, only about 65 feet, 20 meters thick. The rings are divided into 7 main groups, named A through G, and several smaller gaps and divisions. The largest and brightest ring is the A ring, which has a gap called the Cassini division, named after the Italian astronomer who discovered it in 1675. The B ring is the densest and most massive ring, which blocks most of the sunlight that passes through it. The C ring is the thinnest and faintest ring, which is almost transparent. The D ring is the innermost ring, which is very close to the planet and hard to see. The E ring is the outermost ring, which is very wide and diffuse. It is made of tiny particles that come from the geysers of Enceladus, one of Saturn's moons. The F ring is the most dynamic and narrow ring, which has several twists and braids. It is also the most active ring with clumps and jets of material that change over time. The G ring is the second outermost ring, which is very faint and dusty. The rings of Saturn are not only beautiful, but also mysterious. Scientists are still trying to figure out how they formed and how they have evolved over time. Some theories suggest that the rings are remnants of a moon that was shattered by a comet or an asteroid, or by Saturn's gravity. Others suggest that the rings are much younger than the planet, and that they formed from material that was ejected from Saturn's moons by impacts or volcanic activity. The rings are also constantly changing, due to the gravitational interactions between Saturn, its moons, and the Sun. The rings can expand, contract, tilt, twist, and warp, depending on the position and motion of these bodies. The rings can also collide with each other, creating waves, ripples, and gaps. The rings are also influenced by the magnetic field of Saturn, which can create electric currents and auroras in the ring particles. Speaking of moons, Saturn has a lot of them. In fact, Saturn has more moons than any other planet in the solar system, with 146 confirmed and named moons, and more awaiting confirmation and naming. These moons are very diverse and unique, each with its own story and characteristics. Some of the most notable moons of Saturn are Titan. Titan is the largest and most intriguing moon of Saturn, and the second largest moon in the solar system after Jupiter's Ganymede. It is bigger than the planet Mercury and has a thick and complex atmosphere, composed mostly of nitrogen and methane. It is the only moon in the solar system to have a substantial atmosphere, and the only world besides Earth to have liquid on its surface. Titan has lakes, rivers, and seas of liquid methane and ethane, which rain from the clouds and carve the landscape. Titan also has mountains, valleys, dunes, and plains, made of water ice and organic compounds. Titan is considered a potential habitat for life, but not Earth-like life. Instead, scientists speculate that Titan could host exotic forms of life that use methane instead of water as a solvent, and that thrive in the cold and dark environment of Titan. Enceladus. Enceladus is the sixth largest and most active moon of Saturn, and one of the most geologically active worlds in the solar system. It is covered by a thick layer of ice, which reflects almost all of the sunlight that hits it, making it one of the brightest objects in the solar system. Beneath the ice, Enceladus has a global ocean of liquid water, which is heated by tidal forces from Saturn and its other moons. The ocean erupts through cracks in the ice, creating spectacular geysers that spew water vapor and ice particles into space. Some of these particles form the E-ring of Saturn, while others fall back onto the surface, creating fresh snow. The ocean of Enceladus is another possible place for life, as it contains organic molecules, salts, and minerals, and may have hydrothermal vents at the bottom, where life could thrive in the warm and nutrient-rich water. Iapetus. Iapetus is the third largest and most bizarre moon of Saturn, and one of the most contrasting worlds in the solar system. It has two distinct hemispheres. One is bright and icy, while the other is dark and dusty. The dark hemisphere is called Cassini Regio, named after the astronomer who first observed the difference in 1671. The bright hemisphere is called Roncevaux Terra, named after a region in France. The reason for this dichotomy is not fully understood, but some theories suggest that it is due to the accumulation of dust from outer moons, or the migration of ice from one side to the other, or a combination of both. Iapetus also has a prominent ridge that runs along its equator, giving it a walnut-like shape. The ridge is about 12 miles, 20 kilometers high, and spans more than 800 miles and 300 kilometers in length. The origin of the ridge is also unknown, but some hypotheses suggest that it is the result of a giant impact, or the collapse of an ancient ring, or the expansion of the moon's interior. Rhea. Rhea is the second largest and the second most heavily cratered moon of Saturn, and the ninth largest moon in the solar system. It is made of mostly water ice with a small rocky core. It has a thin atmosphere of oxygen and carbon dioxide, which is produced by the interaction of the ice and the radiation from Saturn's. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of my future videos. I have more amazing content coming your way, so stay tuned.